Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to the December edition of the Power Platform Connectors and Integrations Labs call. I am Jocelyn, the PM that helps to drive the independent and verified publisher connector certification process, and we have an awesome session ready for you guys today. Let's get into it. So the first thing that I would like to note is that we have hit an amazing milestone just a few days ago. We are officially at 900 total connectors across Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic apps. Just to put that into comparison, during our last session, we were just at 870, so that's about one a day that we have increased here. This has also been the second highest yield quarter in the history of connectors. So I'm really thrilled about this. Thank you to all of our publishers for your contributions. A huge shout out to our certification team who has been working really, really hard on making sure that all of these submissions go very well. Does Troy Taylor publish Connector Debt? You know what? I'm pretty sure that Troy Taylor publishes, I don't know, Troy, correct me if I'm wrong, but when I presented other calls, I feel like you do about 5 every 2 weeks. Do you think
Yeah, 2 a week is my goal. Yeah.
There we go. 2 a week from Troy Taylor, who has just actually submitted his 100th PR. Am I correct in that?
Yes, a new connector PR. Yeah, I've submitted 100. Yeah.
So of the 200 and something independent publisher connectors, we know that a large quantity of them are from Troy. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
If we keep going, I just wanted to put into comparison specifically for the independent publisher community, we have 70 contributors with 215 IP connectors that have been certified. I just want to call out some of these fantastic brand and use case scenarios from our independent publisher community. We have HubSpot, Discord, Sign Up Genius, Udemy, Notion, GitLab, Spotify. I think it's so important to show this because I think a lot of people don't expect independent publisher connectors to be such rich and so rich in business use case scenarios. You know, I think a lot of them think that they're fun and really cute and things like that, but no, they have real business use cases, as you can see with these fantastic brand names that we can show here. I'd also like to announce that the Snowflake connector has finally been certified after months of work on it and is also part of the independent publisher group as well. This was a collaboration between IPs, Snowflake themselves, Microsoft, and Juniper. And excuse me, I'm so excited to have this one out. It has been really, really sought after. The quantity of salespeople that ping me to ask, oh, Jocelyn, my client is waiting for the Snowflake connector. Is it available yet? It finally is. I'm super excited about this. Documentation will be out for it soon. And we know that this is going to be available for both Power Apps as well as Power Automate. It's going to support the execution of SQL queries, either synchronous or asynchronously. And it also supports Azure AD authentication. So super excited to have this out. And I'm looking forward to all of the use cases that will come with it. If we keep going, this will bring us into the next section of our call, which is to introduce Kartik, a principal PM manager here at Microsoft, and he is going to be talking about the Power Platform CLI. Kartik, did you want to share screen or did you want me to bring up the slides?
Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Fantastic.
All right. Let me know if you guys can see the deck here. How's it going?
We can see.
Perfect. And I will move. All right. Perfect. All right. So, and by the way, if I keep looking away, it's because I have the main screen right up front. I'm not trying to be rude. So just to be clear.
Same. Absolutely same. No worries at all.
All right. So I as Jocelyn mentioned, I'm one of the PMs responsible for a lot of the dev tooling capability that we provide within Power Platform, specifically making sure that code first developers and citizen developers are able to go ahead and collaborate in meaningful, fluid ways. So those are the kind of experiences that I focus on. And as Jocelyn mentioned, my focus tends to be on building. One of the key developer experiences is around the Power Platform CLI. So the first question that I usually get asked is, why do we have a Power Platform CLI? Well, if you were a developer that wanted to go build anything with Power Platform in particular, or for that matter with D65, you had a plethora of tools. And it's great when you have a Swiss Army knife of things. It's just that when you need to use it for a particular utility, you don't know which blade to go use. Right? So the question usually is, how do I get started? Um, and when we looked at that, and and each of these things, it's wonderful that 10 different things can do the same thing. Which is the one that's optimal? So what we said was, okay, let's take a step back and figure out what is the right way to kind of move forward here, right? Yes, there's PowerShell scripts that are there. Yes, there's the SDK that's all there, and things of that nature. So our goal was to focus primarily on the developer use cases and make it easy for the developer to get started. All right, that was the sole intention around this. Um, and the key thing is, it's not just, when the Power Platform CLI first started, it was mostly around PCF and everything else, but it's now morphed on to being the central clearing, or rather central integration hub, if you will, for a lot of the developer experiences that we're bringing into bear. All right. So, for example, when you start using Power Platform CLI inside the VS Code experience, it's the actual CLI piece along with code spaces. If you haven't used code spaces, I'll show you an example in the demo. Uh, GitHub Actions, Azure DevOps. These are all based on the Power Platform CLI. And under the covers, it does things. You can actually pull down Power Pages artifacts, PCF components. We're bringing in custom connector development directly in. So we're actually in the process of consolidating a lot of the PA con work directly into the Power Platform CLI. So we have one CLI across the board for developers instead of these multiple bespoke experiences. Packages and application installs, many of such capabilities as such. Um, One of the key areas now, when you interact with the CLI, as you can see, it's pretty rich when it comes to some of the commands that are available there, right? But the paradigm usually is the fact that it is pack, solution, and then export. And that's one of the other things too, is the fact that Power Platform CLI is multi-platform out of the gate. It is available on Windows, obviously. It's available on Mac, and it's also available on Linux. And the reason why I emphasize a little bit more on Linux primarily is because when you're using things like CI/CD pipelines, you want to be able to go run it on your Linux runners to be able to go build artifacts that way. So that's the other thing there. Under the covers, what it's actually using is something called as the Dataverse Service Client. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to show you a very quick example of how the experience. This is a lot of us when we start using GitHub, for example. We usually clone the repo, do things like that. Within GitHub now, it's available for everyone, is code spaces. And what code spaces essentially is that it's a VS Code instance inside the browser that is backed by the GitHub file system, or the Git file system in this case, right? So here I have my Git repo, and I've gotten into my code space instance. I'm now going to go ahead and install the Power Platform CLI directly inside my code space instance. And as you can see at the bottom, the terminal shell is actually a Linux shell. All right. So not Windows, it's actually Linux. So I go ahead and install that in my code space environment. All right. And from there, once everything's done, I restarts. I've got my auth profiles authenticated to various different environments inside Power Platform, the solutions that I can go look at. All right. So here I'm going to look at my test solution. All right. And again, my Git repository is empty right now because I haven't done anything. So I'm going to create two folders, one for solutions. And I'm also going to add some custom PCF Power Apps Component Framework components here. All right. So I'm going to go into my solutions folder and then use commands like pack solution clone. Now, this is my favorite command, pack solution clone. It is doing a solution export under the covers, but what it's also doing is rendering it as a CC++ project, or a Visual Studio project rather. So you can do things like .NET build and generate the solution zip file for import. All right. So here I've gone ahead and now imported or exported the solution. So if I go into my solution folder, I can see all this. I'm not going to impress you with my TypeScript skills, but I'm adding a custom control directly into my solution. I've built it. I'm now going to import it. So I can just do a pack solution import, and it imports that directly into my Power Platform environment. If I go into my Power Platform environment where I imported the solution, I can now look at that, and presto, voila, that particular control is inside my solution. So it is actually working with your respective auth profiles and so on and so forth directly in that environment as we speak. Okay, but that's essentially it. And then when I can go into Git, and this is great even for ISVs. Like you can actually, if you want, you can now package stuff directly into the certification repo, build your stuff, and just check in right in there for Jocelyn team to come in and kind of start taking a look. But I've gone ahead and now just committed everything directly there. In addition, I can also use it on my machine. So if you're using Windows services for Linux or locally on your Windows machine, you can actually now use the same experience. Again, this is the developer experience I was talking about. I can do a .NET build, and I'm building on a Linux container here. But that's the experience that we're talking about from a Power Platform CLI, and that's what we expose directly there. Now, for a lot of you who are used to building custom connectors, like Troy, right? All right. This may not be a lot of news for you. What we decided was the fact that, going back to our initial foundations and trying to minimize confusion for developers, all right, we realized, look, there's a significant amount of user community and groundswell on the PAC CLI side, and there's a significant amount of user community on the PA Con side. Why don't we just go ahead and figure out a way to integrate the experience and also fix some of the things that we wanted to go fix in the first place? So for those of you who may not know the fact that the way PA Con's command line works, it's a Python command line, obviously, but it talks directly to the PAR Automate RP. And what is the RP in this case? That is the workload running on top of the Power Platform infrastructure. And one of the things that we decided is, as we were trying to go and improve the broader ALM experience, or the application lifecycle management experience, we realized that we had to bring in some of that logic directly into Dataverse. All right. So one of the big difference between the Power Platform CLI implementation of connectors versus the PA Con one is that the Power Platform CLI talks to Dataverse and Dataverse only. It does not talk to the RP, in this case, the Power Automate RP in this context. All right. The other thing was that the PA Con RP was not necessarily amenable for CI/CD. So if I wanted to go ahead and build things like create a connector, build it, and then push it directly into a target environment, PA Con was not necessarily amenable for that. So if let's say today you wanted to go build something and have a CI/CD process to push it into the certification Git repo, you didn't have a tool, you didn't have a way. You had to manually go and upload things. Now with the PAC CLI capability, you're now able to bring some of those components directly into the picture in that context. So that was the key thing that we wanted to go do. One was to meld it into a proper developer experience, as in integrated inside VS Code or whatever, or for that matter, you can even run a terminal inside whatever other hacky IDE that you may have. All right. In addition to that, you're able to generate all the relevant property files. And at the same time, you're able to use the proper CI/CD pipeline to go deploy in the various different environments. Now, it is in preview, and I'm going to probably let the cat out of the bag here, because we're going ahead and addressing a lot of this stuff on the Dataverse side. We're also going ahead, along with my colleague Samir, which most of you probably know. We're working on actually bringing in the notion of connections also into Dataverse, and we're going to be doing a private preview around that early next year. So this, again, further simplifies the whole idea of actually deploying connectors and connections. So the reason why that's exciting is because in our first incarnation of the private preview, when you have connections that don't require interactive consent, you can, if the connection does not exist in your target environment, when it runs through your CI/CD pipeline, it will create the connection as well for the connector. All right. So those are the kind of things, those are the kind of experiences that we're trying to go light up as part of this experience. And the PAC CLI is going to be the enabler to go do that. All right. So here's an example, just like the last one. I'm going to go ahead and play this. So this is the again experience. As you can see, I'm sitting inside my VS Code experience. I have a dev and a test folder. So in this case, one of my colleagues, Marcel, he's the developer in this case of the connector. All right. And I am the tester, so to speak. So I can go ahead. So Marcel goes into his dev folder, does something called as PAC connector init. All right. And what that does is creates the basic set of foundational files that you need to kind of get going. In this case, all it does is initializes the current directory and creates the API's properties JSON file as it is. If you have the API definition file, whether you can download it directly from the custom connector you've created on the UI, or you've picked up Swagger from someplace, you can go do that. And then you can do a PAC connector create with the API properties. We are going to add another property for the C# code as well. So you'll be able to go do that. That's an update that we'll probably do early next year in this context. All right. Now I've gone ahead and pushed that connector directly into my Power Platform environment. So now it shows up under my custom connectors into Dataverse. All right, I have to still go create my connection. All right, this hopefully will not have to be the case in the future. All right, we can test the operation. As you can see, the connector works. All right, now what we're going to go do is go and make this thing work, go into our test environment. So this time around, when I go into my test folder, all right, my test folder is again empty. I'm not going to do a connector in it anymore. What I am going to do is I'm just going to go download the connector from the connector ID. So I'm just going to go say pack connector download with the connector ID, and it will download the artifacts from my dev environment. Remember, the thing that we're trying to do is make sure everything is consistent across the board. So we get the same set of API properties and definitions. The only difference that we're going to have is when we go into the API property, or definition rather, we're going to change the URL, because the API gateway that we're going to talk to is actually not going to be our dev anymore. It's going to be our test. All right, because it's a test. We want to make sure that the test environment maps to the proper test API gateway. In this case, this happens to be the API endpoint happens to be running on API management here. Okay, so I'm now going to do something called as packorg select my test environment URL. Now, this could either be the environment URL or it could be the environment ID. If you have access to either one of those things, you can pass that and it will resolve it automatically for you. All right. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a create using the same property in JSON file in my test environment. Okay. So now what Marcel's gone ahead and done is connected into his test environment and then created the same connector directly in that context there. So if I now do a pack connector list, I now get the list. Now, again, if you've gone ahead and created a connector with PACon, remember it's created in the RP, so it will not show up on pack connector list until you add that into a solution. Okay. So again, in this UI, we're going back into our test environment here, making sure that the connector works and everything seems to be working. Now, there's one more little step. So now this is where Marcel goes away and I come in. All right. I'm now logged into Marcel's test environment. All right. Yes, I'm there through my UI for my want to do a pack org who. All right. I'm now going to do a pack connector list to see, hey, let me just see what's happening here. And I can see the connector ID showing up here. Now, within pack CLI, I have a canvas command that can now create a dummy application with that connector ID. So now I can go and do a pack canvas create, and it will create an MS app file, right, with the connector ID. So now it'll go ahead and create this inventory management app. This is just to kind of get started to see how exactly the connector may behave in an app context. Okay, so now it's gone ahead and created that, and it creates that MS app file locally on my machine. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to go over to my Power Platform or Power Apps UI. All right, in my Marcel test environment, I'm going to go into Apps and just go ahead and either select a new app or import Canvas app, either one. I just wanted to go show you the fact that you can do so many different ways. So I'm just going to go create an inventory management app. And instead of authoring something, I'm just going to suck in the newly created MS app file on my desktop. All right. So I'll just go ahead and say open, browse files, select that new inventory management app. All right. And there we go. And now it shows up here. The UI gets refreshed. And it creates this dummy app that I can either use this, I can build upon it. But the intent is to show you an app that actually, shows how the API or the connector would work. So here I'll go ahead and add this is one piece that we're still fixing. All right. But you still have to go add the connector into the app after the fact, after you've imported it. All right. Once that is done, you play the app in this case. And again, that same testing that we were doing, now we get a much cleaner, nice looking app rendered merely out of a connector that we just created just moments ago. But this is the example of the kind of experiences that we're now lighting up by consolidating a lot of the developer experiences going forward. All right. Additional resources that are available for you. There are plenty of resources available around this. There's also including, we also have an app in a day exercise that covers a heck of a lot more than just the custom connector piece there. You can actually build PCF controls, do application registrations and things of that nature there as well. That's pretty much it from what I had from my deck. I know there were very few today, considering the holiday, but I did have a session around questions. But so yeah, open to questions. Otherwise, I'll hand it back over to Jocelyn.
Thank you so much, Kartik. That was awesome. Oh, Rebecca, ask questions, please.
So I was just wondering, because what you're showing with the PackCLI connectors is you create the custom connector outside of solutions. I know that there's still not parity with custom connectors and in and out of solutions, but what is the idea there? Because, well, everything is going to be solution aware at some point.
Going forward, everything is. So the reason why by putting everything inside Dataverse, it is already being solution aware. All right. That was one of the things that was not, flexible enough in the RP side. That there's a reason why we hold kind of a very non-negotiable stance saying, PackCLI will only work against Dataverse, because at the end of the day, for us to do things like CI/CD and all that stuff, solutions enable that to make it happen better.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing that you may have not heard is we have another project going on, something called as Power Catalog. All right. So that is, think of it as an internal catalog where you can share, custom components with your citizen makers and so on and so forth. So that is also dependent on building things on solutions. So this is also setting things up so that when you do go build those kind of custom connectors, that you can package things up as connectors and dump it into a catalog. So for example, let's say, and this is a very common scenario that we see, there's a system integrator that's working in for a customer, all right? And they've built a custom connector for that customer because of their proprietary, they can't put it up into app source or anything of that sort. So they want to be able to put it into a common place where not only that one particular customer, but everyone in that customer account is able to download it. That's the notion of the Power Catalog. So the experiences that we're building here on the PackCLI for even connectors and PCF will eventually add other capabilities around virtual agents and so on and so forth, is to make that function a lot easier. So you'll see more solution awareness coming in because we're now moving everything onto the PackCLI part. Sorry, so it was a very long-winded answer, Rebecca. I'm sorry.
No, it's just, it's all good news. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Daniel's typing. You can also open your mic, Daniel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just speak, Daniel.
Yeah, I was just saying about the pack connector list that it doesn't list any connectors outside of solutions. So that really helps also with promoting the connectors as a solution aware component.
All right. So that was just my little show. So first of all, thank you all. I appreciate it. And as a matter of fact, starting next year, I will be reaching out to a lot of you folks along with Samir to start looking at, we are going to be looking at ways to bring in your existing stuff that's in GitHub to be able to make sure that it works well with the PackCLI interfaces. So I might be reaching out to you guys to kind of be the first set of tire kickers to kind of give us feedback. So stay tuned. I have your names now. So I will be reaching out, but thank you all. Thank you so much. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and Happy New Year if I don't get to talk to you in between now and the rest of the year. All right.
Thank you so much for your contributions, Kartik. And if you are ever looking for more of our biggest Power Platform users, let me know, because we have a great community here. So you'll definitely have a forum to bounce ideas off of if you ever need.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all.
Of course. Now, if we go back, I would love to introduce our next section of the call. We have here one of our independent publishers, Vitalii, who is going to demo one of his connectors. And Vitalii, I saw your email. I corrected your Twitter.
Okay, thank you.
Of course. I'll stop sharing and hand it over to you.
Okay.
So Vitalii, before you dive in, can you share a little bit about yourself? And because we talked before, a little bit about yourself and what was the idea why you created the custom connector, and then dive into the demo.
Of course, yeah. So about me, I'm an experienced software developer. I've been working with JavaScript for 6 years or more, and then suddenly I was introduced to Power Platform, and I switched my job to Power Apps developer, to Power Platform developer. So in my team, I was the only pro developer, so I was doing this fusion development jobs like PCF controls. Also, I made one custom connector for customers. That's why I decided in September, I found that there was a Microsoft Hackathon program, pilot program for connectors. So I signed up for this program, and there was a list of top Ask connector, and I searched through that list and found that electricity map connector is very interesting because it's can be useful for environment, can make people thinking more about sustainability, something like that. So yeah, trying to share my screen. Yeah, here is this product. Electricity maps. It shows production of electricity, consumption of electricity, and carbon footprint that this electricity makes by. So it divided by countries, by regions. For example, this map is showing the live carbon intensity in the countries. So I don't know why. Oh, this is live. So also this product has open API, and it doesn't need to be. You don't have to buy a subscription for this. So that's why I chose this product. So I had free subscription to test my connector. And during this hackathon, I submitted my connector and certified. Thank you for certification to Amjad and all the team. So yeah, I want you to show how this connector is working. So I decided to make a short flow. So let's pretend that we have like an electric vehicle, and we want to charge this vehicle during the times when the carbon footprint is the lowest. For example, okay, I can go through my actions in my connectors while I'm here. So you can get carbon intensity, live carbon intensity. It means how many grams of carbon that CO2 is produced by is made by producing 1 megawatt of electricity. This API also has data on carbon intensity history, and it can predict some future carbon intensity. Also, we can get some live data about how many electricity is produced and what is the source of electricity, and historical data of this production of electricity. And also this API can provide with some forecasts of consumption and production. So in my case, I want to get the live carbon footprint. Yeah, for example, I'm located in Canada, but I don't know why. But this location is not included in pre-subscription. So let's choose Netherlands. We can also set latitude for location and some options for calculations, but let's not deep so dive.
The Netherlands is very small, so probably it doesn't really make any difference if you add longitude and latitude.
Yeah. So yeah, and to see results, we can get this value of live carbon footprint. And for example, if it's more than 600 grams for 1 kilowatt, we don't want to charge our vehicle. So we will get notification to that it's high level of CO2, yeah, plug. And for example, when it's lower, we want to start our charging. Actually, we can use another connectors to connect to this like smart socket to control our electricity consumption. Okay, let's save and check. All right, this succeeded. It's good news. So what we have for Netherlands right now, carbon intensity is not that high. It's pretty high, but it's okay. So we got a notification that it's not a good time for charging your vehicle because it has like it will make a big high carbon footprint. Yeah, so I got message. And also I wanted to make some simple application, canvas applications where this my connector is used. Using this connector, we can get historical data, make some visualization of it. For example, by default, I'm using Germany, and you can see how carbon production is changing during the day. So you can, for example, use this time for extra work like updating your software or making some calculations on servers or charging your vehicle or charging or mining anything. And yeah, you can see breakdown by type of electricity source. Like for example, for Switzerland, we have a lot of hydro electricity. We have nuclear electricity, but Germany, we have a lot of coal electricity, electricity that goes from coal. And that's pretty much it, what I wanted to show you. So ask me any questions I can.
Thank you so much, Vitalii. I actually wanted to share something. On a personal note, I am super duper interested in this topic and specifically this connector. My actual degree when I was in college was in mechanical engineering, specializing in thermo and carbon neutrality. So
That's my degree too.
Oh, no way. Wow.
Thermal
Okay.
engineering, thermal engineering.
My specialty was in thermo as well, and that's so fantastic because I think that just shows how powerful Power Platform is with regards to enabling everybody with the capabilities of low code, no code technology. You and I are perfect examples of you don't have to come from a CS background in order to make an impact in this field. So that makes me so happy. That's so heartwarming. My final capstone project when I was graduating was about a theoretical plan to make my university's campus carbon neutral.
Wow.
Yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing this. I'm super excited that we had this recorded because I want to share this with so many more people. It's such an important topic. Does anybody have any questions for Vitalii?
Feel free to ask.
No questions, just awesome.
This is
good.
absolutely
Okay.
great.
It's a
Thanks.
great, it's very useful, this connector. Also the use case that you showed. Yeah.
I'm not sure. Troy, I think you're still here. Don't you also have something with regards to carbon emissions and things like that as another IP connector?
Yeah, there are a couple other ones actually.
That's
Um,
awesome. It makes me so happy to see like the intersection of two things that I care about so much.
Yeah, we had last year during to celebrate Earth Day, we did a IP connector extravaganza, really focused on this topic. But Vitalii's connector was not there yet.
Yeah,
And
it
when we
was.
did that, I know that Troy demoed at least one connector. So we have quite a number of IP connectors in this field. So it's very nice because will definitely help.
That was really awesome. Thank you so much. I would be happy to spend any time that anybody else wants to stay to talk about any other remaining connector questions or topics, or give me recommendations for what you want to talk about next month or anything like that. If there is none, we can get it for everybody 15 minutes back. I'm sure that everybody has a busy day. Yeah, I think you're completely right that most people are in holiday mode. Um, but thank you so much for everybody who came. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Vitalii. Thank you, Kartik, for your efforts in putting this together. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody again next month. If we continue with the second Wednesday of the month occurrence, we shall see each other on January 11th next. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all have a happy holiday season and a great day.